Today we have got Professor Sachin S. Kumar from RIT Islampur, Maharashtra, and Professor Kedar Kulkarni, again from the same department, Electrical Engineering Department, RIT Islampur. And they are going to be speaking on electrical or electric vehicle technologies. This session is divided into two parts. First, Professor Sachin Kumar is going to speak on selection of motor rating and battery for electric vehicles. And then we have got Professor Kedar Kulkarni who is going to speak about wire ratings, then grid or vehicle to grid charging and charging stations. So now I hand over it to Professor Sachin Kumar, and I request him to please start with his presentation.
Okay, thank you, sir. Am I audible to all?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, so good evening, all. Myself, Sachin Shivaji Kumar. I am working as assistant professor in the electrical engineering department at RIT Sakarare. So first, I would like to thank SA India and RIT for giving me this opportunity to share my experience about electric vehicle. So without wasting any time, I'll start today's session. So go to next slide, please. So these are the contents. So first, I'm going to discuss components of electrical drive. After that, types of motor and its applications. Then basics of vehicle dynamics. Then types of battery, BMS, and wiring cell selection. Next. So these are the learning outcomes. At the end of this session, attendants will be able to explain components of electrical drives, classify various types of electric motors, compare different battery technologies, calculate motor ratings for EV, and calculate battery rating for EV.
Professor Kumar, I request
Yes,
you
sir.
please speak up. Your voice is slightly breaking. There is some disturbance from your end.
Okay, okay. Now
Yeah,
it is okay.
yeah. Be closer to the mic. Thank you.
Okay, sir. So next slide. So this is the block diagram of electrical drive system. So in this, you can see the source is connected to the load through power semiconductor and motor. So in this, we are controlling motor speed by sending command signal to the control unit. So the control unit generates pulses accordingly and controls the speed of motor. So here the source may be AC or DC. Basically, the source is totally depends on types of motor. Next, in the electric vehicle, we use DC source, that is called battery. Next, the purpose of power semiconductor conductors is to convert AC to variable AC, AC to DC, DC to DC, and DC to AC. The conversion totally depends on types of the motor. The purpose of sensing unit is
You are not audible, sir. Kumar, sir, you are not audible.
hello.
You are not audible.
Hello.
Yes, now you are audible.
Okay, sir. I think there is a problem with the internet. As we give command signal to the control unit, then control unit check the speed of motor.
Okay, give me some time. I'll just call him up and I'll find out what has happened.
Okay. Hello, sir. Sir, there is no. Hello. So am I audible to all?
Yeah, now you're audible. I request you to start again for this slide.
From the first side. Okay. So I'll start from beginning. So this is block diagram of electrical drive system. Basically, this drive system converts electrical power into the mechanical power. Okay. So in this, you can see source is connected to the load through the power semiconductor and motor. Okay. So in this, we are controlling motor speed by sending command signal to the control unit. Control unit generates the pulses accordingly and controls the speed of motor. Here, the source may be AC or DC. The source is totally depends on type of motor. So in the vehicle, we use DC source, that is called a battery. Next, the purpose of semiconductor Next, the purpose of sensing unit is to sense the speed of load or motor and provide it to control unit. It helps to manage constant speed during the variations of load. As we give command signal to the control unit, then control unit checks the speed of motor via sensing unit, and control unit increase or decrease speed of motor by providing proper pulses to the power semiconductor unit. So we'll move towards next slide. Next slide. So these are the components of electrical drives. So first one is load. That is load is mechanical load. Next one is motors. There are different types of motors, AC motors and DC motors. We have to select as per our application. Next, source. It may be AC source or DC source. Next, power electronic converters, and that may be rectifier, inverter, chopper. Okay. Next, sensing unit. It may be current sensor, voltage sensor, or IR or proximity sensor. And last one is control unit. Control unit is nothing but our microcontroller or microprocessor. So we'll move towards next slide. So first we'll discuss types of power electronic converters. So in that we have different types of power electronic converter. So we'll discuss first one. So first is control rectifier. So control rectifier converts AC to variable DC. So it is useful for DC motor application. Next one is chopper. Chopper converts fixed voltage to variable voltage DC, and it is used to control speed of DC motor. Next, AC voltage controllers. AC voltage controller converts fixed voltage AC to variable voltage AC at the same frequency. This kind of controllers used to control speed of induction motor. Next, inverters. It may be voltage source inverter or it may be current source inverter. It converts fixed DC into fixed variable voltage and frequency AC. So this type of converter is used to control speed of induction motor as well as speed of synchronous motor as well as speed of BLDC. So this type of converter used to control speed of induction motor and synchronous motor. So next, sir, करू शकतो लॅपटॉपच्या माईक यूज केला. ओके. Okay, am I audible to all right now, or is there any interference?
Sometimes sometimes your voice totally
flickers. Yes, it flickers sometimes.
Okay. So next we'll discuss types of motors. So motor is an electromechanical device that converts an electrical energy into mechanical energy. Next, AC motors requires AC power to operate. Next, special motors. It consists of stepper motor, BLDC motor, or servo motor. So, as per the speed torque and speed current characteristics, we have to select particular load. So next slide. So we'll discuss in brief electrical motors. So first one is Electrical motors are classified as DC motors and AC motors. So again, DC motors has three types. First one is self-excited, separately excited, and compound. So self-excited has again two types: series motor and shunt motor. The DC servo motor used where high starting torque is required, like traction, hoist, rolling mills. Next, DC shunt motor. DC shunt motors are used where fairly constant speed and medium starting torque is required, like lathe machine, machine tools, milling machines. Next, separately excited motor. It has again two types: field excited and permanent magnet excited. So next, we'll have compound motor. Again, compound motor has two types: cumulative compound and differential compound. Next, we'll move towards AC motors. AC motors are widely used in industry and agriculture sector. In industry, around 90% are induction motor used. So because of it has lots of advantages, like it is a cheap, robust, efficient, and reliable. Also, it has good speed regulation, high starting torque, and it requires little maintenance. There are two types of induction motor: wound rotor and squirrel cage motor. Okay, so I would like to tell you that in Tesla, Toyota RAV4 and GE EV1 vehicles use a three-phase induction motor. The main advantage of induction motor is that we can generate electrical power during braking. It is possible if we decrease synchronous speed below the rotor speed during the braking. Already we know NS is equal to 120.
Hello? Professor Kumar, you are still not audible now.
Hello, sir. I think there is no problem from my side, sir. Hello?
Okay, now you're audible.
I think there is no problem from my side, sir. I have proper internet setup.
I don't know what is happening, but I request you to repeat from NF is equal to 120 and
Okay.
everything has gone.
So basically, induction motor, three-phase induction motors are used in electric vehicles like Tesla, Toyota RAV4, and GE EV1. So main advantage of induction motor is that we can generate electrical power during braking. It is possible if we decrease synchronous speed below the rotor speed during the braking. So we know NS is equal to, that is synchronous speed is equal to. So by changing P, we can change NS, or by changing F, we can change NS. So this can be done by the controller. So next one is synchronous motor. These motors runs at a constant speed. So next one is permanent magnet and SRM, that is switch reluctance motors. Nowadays, BLDC motors are widely used because it has lots of advantages, like no rotor copper loss, more efficiency than induction motor, lighter and smaller, more reliable, more torque density, more specific power. And this motor is used in Toyota Prius. So next, let's have a discussion on parts of BLDC motor. So go to next slide. So these are the parts of BLDC motor. You can see stator winding, rotor, permanent magnet rotor, and Hall effect sensor. So basically, Hall effect sensors are used to check exact position of rotor, and according to rotor position, we have to provide supply to the stator winding. Then motor will start. So we'll see how speed control of BLDC motor can be done. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. So this is a circuit diagram of speed control of BLDC motor. So it has total 4 parts. First one is speed control or input signal part. Second one is control part. Third one is motor driver circuit, and fourth one is motor. So control unit checks the position of rotor of BLDC motor and input command. According to speed control input, controller generates pulses, and these pulses are given to driver circuit. Basically, driver circuit converts 5-volt pulses into 12 or 15 volt as per requirement of switches. The switches may be IGBT or MOSFET. Driver circuit provides these switches to the inverter, and inverter converts DC power into AC power, and then our motor will run. So next, go to next slide. So our main motto is to find out power rating of motor for electric vehicle. So before that, we need to know about basics of vehicle dynamics. Go to next slide. Okay. So you can see in this picture, there are different forces acting on vehicle. So yellow arrow shows driving force, red arrow shows frictional force, the friction in between wheel and road. Next, the purple arrow shows air resistance acting on front side of vehicle. Next, then green arrow shows weight of the vehicle. So next, go to next slide. Power rating based on vehicle dynamics. So already we have seen different forces acting on vehicle. So these are rolling resistance, gradient resistance, aerodynamic drag. The force required for driving a vehicle is calculated as follows. So F total is equal to F rolling plus F gradient plus F aerodynamic drag. So let's discuss step by step what is by rolling resistance, gradient resistance, and aerodynamic drag. So first we'll discuss rolling resistance. Next slide. Rolling resistance is nothing but, it is a frictional force between wheel and road. So rolling resistance can be calculated by this formula. F rolling is equal to CRR into M into G, where CRR is a coefficient of rolling resistance, M is mass in kg, G is acceleration due to gravity. So here we have to consider approximate weight of the vehicle in terms of kg, and we have to put this value in this formula, and we have to calculate F rolling. So next we'll discuss gradient resistance. So gradient resistance of the vehicle is the resistance while climbing hill or fly over, or while driving in onward slope or downward slope. Okay. So next, F gradient resistance is equal to plus or minus M into G into sine alpha, where we know the M is nothing but the mass of vehicle, G is nothing but the acceleration due to gravity, and sine alpha. Alpha is the angle between the level road and the horizontal plane. So if we consider our vehicle is traveling in a horizontal plane, at that time alpha is 0. So if we put alpha 0 in this equation, then we'll get F gradient resistance is 0. So next, aerodynamic drag. So aerodynamic drag is a force which the oncoming air applies on moving body. Aerodynamic drag is equal to, or F aerodynamic drag is equal to 0.5 into CD into AF into rho into V minus V0 bracket square. So CD is nothing but aerodynamic drag coefficient, AF effective cross-sectional area of vehicle, P is rho is air density, V is velocity, vehicle speed in meter per second, V is component of wind, V0 is a component of wind speed moving in the direction of the vehicle in meter per second. Okay, next slide. Once we get all these forces, then it is easy to find out F total. So F total is equal to F rolling plus F gradient plus F aerodynamic drag. We'll get in terms of Newton. So from this, we have to find out P total. So we know the velocity of vehicle. From this, we can calculate F total, P total. So P total is equal to F total into velocity of vehicle. So P total is nothing but the required power at the wheel. So by considering efficiency of transmission gear, we will get motor rating, that is equal to P total divided by efficiency. So this is how we can calculate motor rating for our electric vehicle. So next slide. So this is power flow in car. Already we have calculated required forces at wheel side. After that, next we have to consider losses in gearbox. After that, we'll get output power of machines. Okay, next again we have to consider losses in electrical system, that is losses in motor and losses in converter. If we consider all losses and all forces, then we'll get energy, that is required power or capacity of battery, total required power at a source side. So this is how we have to find out rating of battery. So next slide. So first we'll discuss types of battery. There are different types of batteries: lead acid, nickel metal hydride, nickel zinc, nickel cadmium, lithium ion batteries, zinc air, sodium sulfate, and lithium polymer. These are different types of battery. So we'll compare only first 5 batteries. Next slide. So this is a comparison of battery. So first one is lead acid battery. You can see here, lead acid battery has more disadvantages than advantages. So basically, it needs more maintenance. So next, we'll see next battery, nickel metal hydride. So you can see here, advantage. You can see here, advantage of this battery is double energy density compared with the lead acid batteries. Harmless to the environment, recyclable, safe operation at a high voltage, can store volumetric power and energy. Cycle life is longer, operating temperature range is long. Okay, so we'll move next towards next battery type. So nickel zinc. So you can see the disadvantage of this battery is fast growth of dendrite and preventing use in vehicles. So that's why we are not using this battery in electric vehicle. So next one is nickel cadmium. So if you see disadvantage of nickel cadmium battery, then cadmium can produce or can cause pollutions. That's why we cannot use this battery. Okay. Next, we'll move towards lithium-ion battery. So let's check the advantage of this battery. High energy density, twice of NIMH. It means 4 times of lithium lead acidic battery. Good performance at a high temperature.
Again, Professor Kumar, you are not audible now. Please check. Hello. Hello. Okay, please give me 1 minute.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, sir.
Am I audible?
Yeah, I request you, if you are not on mobile, you can join using your mobile.
Sir, already there is no problem from my side.
No. It is there, sir. There is some problem with your mic, and that's why in between your voice is cutting. Now, anyways, if you are not sharing your screen, I request you if you can join back using your mobile, it would be better. There is some issue with your mic on the laptop. That's why after some times your voice is not audible. Okay. Otherwise, if you want to continue, but if at all it breaks again, I would request you to join using your mobile.
It will take some time. So
yeah. Continue.
Instead of this, we can continue this one. Okay. Yeah. So we'll move towards next slide. So from this power and energy by battery type, if you see carefully this graph, then we can say lithium-ion battery can store more energy and more power density. So that's why we can use this type of battery in our vehicles. So next, we'll move towards next slide. So technical performance by existing battery type. So you can see here energy density, and power density are more for lithium-ion batteries as compared to the others. But life cycle and cost of lead acid battery is more as compared to the other. Sorry, cost of lithium-ion battery is more. So application of this battery is consumer electronics and electric vehicles. So we'll move towards next slide. Let's have a look of construction of lithium-ion battery. You can see here anode and cathode both are separated by separator. So we are not wasting here much time. We'll move towards next. So this is one cell. By connecting number of cells series and parallel, we can form battery pack. We'll see this in next slide. So this is lithium-ion battery pack. Why we use basically cells? Because it has one advantage, we can cool easily. So next, go to next slide. So let's check charging and discharging of lithium-ion batteries. So basically we'll have 3 cells, cell 1, cell 2 and cell 3. And these cells are connected to one battery pack. If we charge this battery, then what happens? Battery 1 will overcharge. And due to this, it will get damaged. To avoid this, we have to charge individually.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you can see cell 1 is charged around 40%, cell 2 is charged around 20%, and cell is around 0% charging. If we connect load to this battery, then what happen? Battery 3 will discharge below the discharging level. So due to this, cell 3 will get damaged. To avoid this kind of this kind of situation, we have to connect one BMS, so that BMS can discharge separately. So next we'll see BMS. So BMS is nothing but what? It is a central element for monitoring and controlling lithium ion energy storage system. So nowadays wireless BMS also available in the market. Basically, there are three types of BMS: centralized BMS, distributed BMS, modular BMS. So let's see the first function of BMS. So next, go to next slide. We'll see functions of BMS. So BMS can measure individual cell voltage and total voltage. It can also measure average temperature, coolant intake temperature, coolant output temperature, and temperature of individual cell. It can also measure SOC, state of charge, DOD, depth of discharge, SOH, state of health, and SOP, state of power. Also, it can measure currents, that is input current or output current of battery. So next, we'll see next. So we'll see how to calculate battery rating. So for this, already we have calculated total required energy in terms of kWh for electric vehicle. So we know power is equal to voltage into current in terms of watt. So there is a double is missing. Watt power is equal to V into I in terms of watt. So as we know, E is equal to P into T in terms of watt hour. So if we put this value, then we'll get V into I into T. That is I into T is nothing but Q, where E is the energy stored in the battery expressed in terms of watt hours. V is the voltage of battery. Q is the battery capacity measured in terms of ampere hours. So next.
Next slide.
Okay, we'll see one example. Required power is 3 kilowatt for 2 hours, and voltage of battery should be 48 volt. So here we have to find out ampere hour for this one. So already we know E is equal to V into Q. So Q is equal to E by V. If we put these values 3 into 1000 into 2 by 48, then we'll get 125 ampere hour. That is 125 ampere hour. So here we required 48 volt and 125 ampere hour battery pack. So in market 18650 batteries are available. They are available in several ampere hours. By connecting these batteries series and parallel, then we can form 48 volt and 125 ampere hour battery pack. So this is how we can form a battery pack. So next, we'll see how to find wire size. So first we'll discuss for single phase. So for single phase, P is equal to V into I into cos phi into efficiency of load or efficiency of motor. So first calculate current from this formula. Then take 2% voltage drop and then calculate current for 2% voltage drop and add this calculated current in the first current. Then we'll get total current. Already we know if you want to use aluminum cable, then it carries 1.5 ampere current for 1 square mm cable size. If you want to use copper cable, then it carries 2.5 ampere current for 1 square mm cable size. So according to, you can select cable size for your applications. Okay, next, use this formula and calculate total current.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Okay. Again.
Next slide, please. Okay, for three phase, do same thing, but take voltage, average voltage drop is 5% and calculate total current. From this total current, we can calculate approximate wire size for electrical wiring. So use this formula. So next one, we'll move towards next slide. So these are the learning outcomes of today's session. I think now you will able to explain components of electrical drives, classify various types of electric motors, compare different battery technologies, calculate motor rating for electric vehicle, and calculate battery rating for electric vehicle. So next, these are the references from where I have collected data. So we'll move towards next slide. So if you have or if you need more information or if you have any types of query, you can contact me anytime. So this is my WhatsApp number and this is my email ID. You can take a screenshot right now and you can call me anytime or you can text me anytime for any type of query or for any type of information. So next. So thank you all for listening. Now next I will hand over to Professor Mani sir.
Yeah. So I would like to now first of all thank Professor Kumar for his session, and now we are going to move towards the next session, which is going to be delivered by Professor Kedar Kulkarni. So I request him to start with his particular session for EV charging stations and V2G, that is vehicle to grid. So Professor Kedar Kulkarni, please continue.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. So yeah, good evening all. Great session by Professor Kumar here, and really big thanks to SAE India and RIT, and also real appreciation and thank you to Professor Mane for arranging and coordinating such a beautiful workshop, 7-day session on EV technologies. So basically, I am Mr. Kedar Kulkarni. So I am assistant professor in Department of Electrical Engineering in RIT, Maharashtra, India. So I'll be conducting EV charging stations and V2G lecture for the next session. Fine. So this will be my outline for this today's session. So basically we are covering two main things or main points over here. The one is charging station and another one is V2G. So basically charging station, in that we'll see introductions, levels of charging, block diagram of a typical charging station. Then we'll see about components of charging station and standards and various standards and statistics related to charging station. Then we'll move towards the second part, that is V2G. V2G means basically a vehicle to grid. So in that also we'll see introduction. So what is actually mean by V2G? Then is there any need for V2G? Then we'll go towards types of V2G, the block diagram for V2G theory behind that, and then we move towards balancing the grid, the concept of balancing the grid. Fine. So this will be the outline for today's session. Okay. So before going further, first of all, let me remind you that first of all, you need to see the outcomes for this session. So there are five outcomes related to my session. So first outcome is at the end of this session, actually, you should be able to explain components of electrical vehicle charging station. The second one is at the end of the session, you should be able to compare the levels of charging, then discuss various standards for charging station, then discuss the concept of V2G, that is vehicle to grid, and explain the need for V2G. These are the five outcomes that you should know at the end of the session. Okay, fine. So the first part for my PPT is charging station. So yes, firstly we'll see about introduction related to charging station. As you all are well-known people, well-educated people, so you'll be knowing about electrical vehicle technology, why this trend is emerging nowadays. Petrol car, or generally USA people would like to call it as a gas vehicle. So gas vehicle will surely require a gas station, or here in India we call it as a petrol pump. So like that, electrical vehicles also require to pump the energy, so that we call it as a charging station. So for electrical vehicle. So EV charging station, if you want a definition, specific definition, then you can say that EV charging station is an element in infrastructure that supplies electric energy for recharging of plug-in electric vehicles. So if there are different kinds of electric vehicles, and if you are having a plug-in electric vehicle, then you can charge that vehicle battery. So electric vehicle is nothing but an infrastructure that supplies electrical energy for your plug-in vehicles. Okay, so there are different kinds of EVs right now running on the roads. So some EVs have onboard chargers. Onboard chargers means what? Some EVs inside the vehicle they're having the onboard charger. That means the rectifier actually. So they can run on AC systems as well. Other type of vehicles do not have onboard chargers. They have off-board chargers on the station itself. So what it does is the station itself gives DC power directly, and you can directly plug into your specific vehicle by selecting the voltage rating itself. Okay. So yes, right now, if you see the fourth point over here, this is very much important. Many stations support faster. Right now, many of the people are working for faster charging, because nowadays we are seeing, as your phones, the power electronics, or the components are advancing day by day. So what people are doing is they are reducing the time, and they are increasing the efficiency. Means what? They want very fast charging. So they want people not to waste the time. So what happens for petroleum vehicle or gas type of vehicle is, if you go into a gas station or a petrol pump, directly within a 10 to 15 minutes, your gas or your vehicle will be full with petrol. So this is another thing with the electrical vehicles, as it will require some time. So people are not going for electric vehicles, as this will require some time, some amount of people, we can say. So most of the set of people are doing research to reduce the charging time. Okay. So there can be the fifth point here. You can say that there can be public stations or private stations. If I own a vehicle, and if I have my own bungalow over here, and I can have a setup for my electric vehicle, then it can be a private station. But government also can give a subsidy, or can give some funds, so that the public use, you can have a electric vehicle charging station. Fine. So the next point is levels of charging. So there are some confusions. As I am also going through the internet, I found some of the sites are showing different kind of things. But these three levels, I will assure you, that are the mostly used and most important levels of charging. So level yes, previously when people are started this using this electrical vehicle technology, and they found that electrical vehicle stations are required. So they come up with three levels, and that are the levels that we are using. So the first level is, the first two levels, that is level 1 and level 2, are basically AC. That means alternating current levels, and the level 3 is a DC level. Okay. So fine, we'll see point by point. So level 1 is regular household 120 volt outlet with a maximum current of 12 to 15 ampere, and has a maximum power of 1.44 kilowatt or 1.92 kilowatt. Okay. So this is a household type of thing. So European mostly works on 120 volt 60 hertz frequency, wherein in India or in our Asian side, we work on 230 volt and 50 hertz frequency. So level 1, as this research is going on this European level, so mostly they have set level 1 for 120 volt outlet that they are using in a household applications. So level 2, so level 1 you can call it as a yes, residential kind of thing. So level 2 you can call it as a commercial thing, wherein you have a 240 volt outlet, and yes, you have 80 ampere, nearly 80 ampere power current, and power up to 19.2 kilowatt in level 2. Okay, so these two levels are related to AC only. Fine. So level 3 is totally related to DC. So level 3, you can say that this level 3 is related to fast charging. Now see that what is the difference between level 2 and level 1 and level 2 here? As you can notice, the level 1 and level 2 mainly differs for voltage and current. So if you see about current, level 1 has 12 to 15 ampere current, and if you see for level 2, it has 80 ampere current. So what does it mean? More the amount of current, that means less the amount of charging time. Definitely you have seen the fast charger, or you have seen many of the ads for mobile phones that you see on your television sets, that they are saying that your Moog charging is there, fast charging 2.0. So what does it mean actually? Your voltage level will change for your battery. So your battery voltage will remain the same, but the current will be changing. So if the current will be changing, that means if the current will be increasing, the more and more current is pumping to the battery, the less amount it will take to charge the battery. So this is the difference between level 1 and level 2. Fine. So level 3 is related to totally DC systems, wherein you have power of 240 kilowatt. The below table, as you can see, that the 3 levels are mentioned, and these are coinciding with the same that the theory I have written over there. So yeah, the main thing that you should focus on this table is the 4th column over here. So approximately, if you consider 24 kilowatt hour battery, the first session was totally related to the selection of battery by Mr. Kumbar, and as he has suggested some good formulas to check or to select the proper battery rating for your particular vehicle. So if you consider a battery of 24 kilowatt hour, so these are the 3 levels. It will take time. So for first level, if you go for, it will take 17 hours. For second level, if you select the second level, it will take 8 hours. And if you select the third level, it will just take 30 minutes. So to see the timing that is reduced with the increase in current. Okay. So level 2 and level 1 and level 2 will definitely are AC levels. So it will definitely be requiring a onboard charger or onboard rectifier. And level 3 will not require any type of onboard charger. It is called as an off-board type of thing. Okay, fine. So I guess, am I audible, Mr. Mane? Yes?
Yes, sir, you're audible. I'd request you to please slow down the pace at which you're talking.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Slightly slow speed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Fine. So I guess, yes, this is level. I guess I'll repeat once again. So level 1 is related to totally, level 1 and level 2 are totally related to AC, and level 3 is related to DC. So the difference between level 1 and level 2 is mainly regarding the voltage and current levels. And if you increase definitely the current, the rate of charging or the time required for charging will be reduced. Okay. And level 3 is related to DC systems. So DC systems definitely has faster charging rates. As also you can see in the table below that the 4th column, if you see, for 24 kilowatt hour battery to charge fully, level 1 will require 17 hours, level 2 will require 8 hours, and level 3 will require just 30 minutes. Okay, so this is about level of chargings. Now, generally people are confused about the difference of level 2 and level 3. That is, what is the main that differentiates level 2 AC and level 3, that is DC fast charging. So here I have added one slide to just know you. So let you know the difference between the level 2 and level 3 charging. Okay. So see here, as the diagram suggests only, level 2 in the car, you can see that there is an onboard charger. Okay. For level 2 charging is related totally to AC systems. Okay. So that means you are giving AC to the vehicle, but you cannot just give AC to the battery. The battery is having a DC voltage. So definitely you should give a DC to the battery. This is a very clear concept now, because all the batteries, generally, I want to add one thing here, is currently throughout the whole world, every storage system is a DC one. So let me repeat once again, throughout the whole world, if you see any kind of storage system, it is a DC one. Okay, so there is no any storage system in the whole world that is AC up till now. Okay, fine. So a DC system or a DC battery means you have to provide a DC to it. That is very clear. Now, for level 1, level 2, as the system is AC and the battery is DC, definitely there should be a conversion. So where that conversion is happening, in the car itself, I don't know if you're seeing the cursor. Fine. So in the car itself, as you can see that this is the onboard charger. So you are giving AC directly to the car, the socket of the car, and inside the car, the conversion takes place. That is AC to DC. And after the conversion, the DC is given to the battery. So this is level 2. Now level 3. What about level 3? So level 3 is there. Our grid is AC. Okay. So this is let me clear it very. Let me make it very clear that our grid is AC. So yes, our grid is again AC. Then in between that, for level 3, I'm saying this. Okay. So level 3 is a DC system. Okay. So in between the grid and in between the car, so there is a station. In that station, there is an off-board charger, or we can say that off-board rectifier is there. So what it does, rectifier's main function is to convert AC to DC. Okay. So finally, what we want again, we want DC to the battery. Fine. So DC that we want for the battery is given by the station itself. So there is a conversion taking place at the station for the level 3 charging. And if you see the level 2, the conversion is taking place inside the car. Okay, so this is the main difference for level 2 and level 3 charging. Okay. Yes, so let us see some statistics related to this. So yes, I have added 2 slides, and these 2 slides are belonging to the USA, that is United States of America, and they have updated data up to 31st of the March of 2019. So I guess you can see this. The first chart shows that level 2, as you can see, this one sky blue type of line is showing this level 2 connections. Okay, and the purple type of line is DCFC. That is DCFC means DC charger. That is level 3 charger. So as you can see that people are firstly more concentrated on level 2. Firstly, they went to level 1. Then they bought level 2. Then they thought about level 2. Then they are using level 2. Then they got the advantages of level 3. So now they are all focusing on level 3 charging. Okay, so as you can see that the level 3 is increasing, but not at that rate. Okay, so this is about level 3. Fine. And this is the green one, shows the total of these two. Okay, the level 1 is there, but it is as it is very low, so the chart is not showing that level 1 itself. Okay, so this is about the chart. Now we'll see the right hand side of this diagram, that public EV charging stations by type. So if you want a percentage, exact percentage, so these figures are also up to March 31, 2019 and are related to USA only. Okay, so yes, if you see this graph, so the total level 1 is 5.4%, and for the total level 2, it is mostly covering 79.7%. Okay, and DC charging, fast charging, that is only just 14.9%. But I'll assure you that this DC fast charging will definitely, this figure will increase in upcoming future. Fine. So I guess it is clear up till now. Any problems are there, Mr. Yes, Professor Mane? Okay, so I'll continue. So this is the block diagram for electrical vehicles or electrical vehicle charging station. Okay, so electrical vehicle charging station has, again I'll repeat that, level 1, level 2 and level 3. So the block diagram for level 1, level 2 is shown in the above figure, in the above direction, and the level 3 is shown in below the car. Okay, so what is the difference again, level 1, 2 and level 3 is, yes, you can see directly that. So the grid, obviously you should have a grid. Grid is AC again for everyone. I think the grid is AC only. Then after the grid, EVSC. So what do you mean by EVSC? Is electrical vehicle system equipment. Okay, so that is meant by EVSC. So okay, after grid, there is AC, and the same AC is given to the electric vehicle. As you can see that the blue colored one that is highlighted, it is an electrical vehicle. Okay, and in that electrical vehicle, as you can see, this AC DC converter is nothing but an onboard charger that I have been mentioning throughout this PPTs. Okay, fine. So this is for level 1 and level 2 chargings. Okay, so this is the block diagram, basic block diagram. Okay, so if you want for level 3, again there is a grid. Definitely there must be a grid. Then EVSC, electrical vehicle system equipment. Then there is a change, as you can see that there is HVDC. HVDC means what? High voltage DC. So this is HVDC, and here EVSC plus AC-DC converter they have mentioned over here. So what does it mean? That it means that this is a off-board charger wherein you have a converter outside of your vehicle. So this is again your vehicle that is denoted by a highlighted blue color. Okay, so this is the general block diagram of your electrical vehicle power station or generating station. Okay, fine. Now we'll see in detail block diagrams, or what are the main blocks that are used inside of the charging station. Okay, so first of all, let me concentrate on, there are two figures. So first of all, we will concentrate on figure number 1. So figure number 1 is again related to level 1 and level 2 chargings. So again, let me repeat that, level 1, level 2 related to only AC systems. Okay. So yes, there is, first of all, this arrow indicates, I don't know whether you are seeing the mouse or not, but Yes.
When your mouse is visible, so as you move your mouse pointer, everybody can see that.
Yes, yes, yes. It is good. Fine. So yes, this is okay. Yeah, this is grid again. Grid means grid is giving you AC supply. Fine. So yes, according to your state, your whether your country, your state, and your whether city or village, according to that you'll be getting the power rating and all. So yes, AC system basically AC power is everyone is getting AC power. Okay. Then currently right now directly move towards the last thing. This is that EV battery. EV battery means a electrical vehicle or a battery that we need to charge. So first of all, what people do is people park your electrical vehicle in charging station. They'll take out the plug or the socket and they plug into your socket, a particular socket of electric vehicles. And as soon as you plug into the socket, what happens is there is a closed loop system. There is always a closed loop system. So what it ensures is when you plug into the socket, what happens? There is a connection that communication takes place between your vehicle and the charging station. So charging station and vehicle must always have a communication. Without communication, your vehicle will not be charging. Fine. So as soon as you plug in your vehicle to a charging station, what happens is there is a communication setup. So communication is set up through the BMS. No, BMS. What do you mean by BMS? Is battery management system. So every electrical vehicle's charging station must have a BMS. Why BMS is required? I guess Mr. Kumbar has covered something about BMS. So you've been knowing the basics of BMS, introduction about BMS. So yes, BMS is a battery management system. As electrical vehicles can have a different kinds of batteries. As you can see, different manufacturers have their own different surveys and they are doing their own research. So some may prefer some may prefer lithium ion batteries, some may prefer some other kind of batteries. So each of the batteries charging is different kind of thing or different technology. So for that a BMS is required to check whether which kind of batteries are plugged in and check their voltage levels and whatever the which amount the current should be pumped. So what for that BMS is required. So BMS is a kind of a closed loop system that from BMS there is a connection to the DC-DC converter and how actually the current is shared between the converters and EV battery. Now, yes, the first one is charging station, and charging station as it is not a public service, so definitely you have to pay for the charging whatever you are taking the power for. So there is a equipment for metering and billing. So metering and billing will assure that whatever the power that you took, according to that the rate and the rate per unit will give you the amount that you should pay to the charging station. So this is the main thing that you should focus over here is the AC. There is a AC, as you can see. Yes, for the level 1 and level 2, there is in between AC system is there. Okay, this is a AC system, and yes, if you see the variable DC or this is kind of system where in a DC is converted with the help of on-board charger. This is a rectifier again. So this is an on-board charger you can see. Okay, fine. So this is for level 1 and level 2. Now we'll see the second figure. The second figure also the same thing is there, that is AC supply is coming up, and when you're coming with the vehicle and when you plug in your vehicle to the socket, directly the communication will be taking place with your vehicle and your particular charging station, so that they'll be knowing the which kind of battery you are having or whatever the power that should be transferred, and the metering and billing, proper metering and billing. Okay, the main difference here also I would like to mention here is AC is here and DC is here. That means that definitely there is in charging station itself there is a converter that we call it as off board converter that is converting AC to DC, and that DC directly given to the particular battery. Okay, so again see here there is a protection circuit. So protection circuits are also very important as we are dealing with high voltage, not high voltage as you can see, but high currents we are dealing with. So generally high currents will be, there is a definitely a thing called electrocution. So we should be protected, the vehicle should be protected, and the particular personal or the human beings or anything who is coming in contact with particular vehicle and this total system should be protected. So there is always a protection system. Fine. So this is about the detailed block diagram of your charging station. Okay. Fine. Yes. So now we'll see actually what are the components that are in the charging station. So first of all, converters is general word. converters can be of 4 types. AC to DC are called as rectifiers, DC to DC called as choppers, DC to AC called as inverters, and AC to AC are called as AC voltage controllers. So general thing we are kept there as a converters. So basically, we'll not be requiring any AC to AC controllers so far, converters so far, that are AC to AC voltage converters. Wherein if you want to change the level for AC to AC, directly we'll be using transformers. As you are knowing, the transformers are very robust and very reliable kind of component, which directly converts AC to AC. So there cannot be a converter for AC to AC. So there are only 3 main converters, that is rectifier, inverters, and choppers. Fine. So second one is controllers. Controllers are required to control the converters. Okay, as you have seen the electrical vehicle, electrical drives basic diagram. In that we have seen that source, power modulator, controller, motor, and load. So power modulator are nothing but converters. And to control a power modulator, to control a converter, there is a controller required. So controller has a sensing unit and a control unit. Now a BMS. BMS is a battery management system that we have seen. Then protection circuits, metering and billing, and definitely the sixth and important point is charging sockets. Okay, this will be main components of charging station. Yes, fine. So we move towards the first component and very much important component that electrical vehicle charging station has is the converters. So in converters also, there are 3 converters: rectifiers, inverters, and choppers. So first of all, we'll see about rectifiers. So rectifiers are nothing but everyone I think will be knowing. Rectifiers are AC to DC converters. So rectifiers will convert AC power to a DC power. So generally, why rectifiers are used, if you ask me, definitely I will say that your grid is AC and your battery on the other hand are DC. Batteries are DC. So definitely, if you are having a charging station or if you are planning to construct one, you should be having a rectifier or a proper design and proper simulation, and also designing of the rectifier is very important, as I'll definitely assure you. Fine. So this is the, if you see the figure, the rectifier is a 3-phase controlled rectifier. You can see that in the input side we have 3-phase power, that is RYB, and the control switches are IGBTs, as I think most of you are, I don't know which stream are you from. So basic electrical is, everyone is knowing. So this is the symbol for IGBT. So 6 IGBTs are required to convert power from AC to DC. Then DC is at the output side, and the C is used here, capacitor is used. So capacitor is used to reduce the ripple content in voltage of the DC voltage that we are getting as output of rectifier. Fine. So rectifiers can be single phase or 3-phase. So according to your particular application, so if see here, if I am having a particular car or vehicle, electrical vehicle, but let me say that in India or most of the countries, I'll say the power or the voltage that is you are receiving in your home is a single phase one. Okay, so in India we have a single phase 230 volt 50 hertz supply that will be getting in our particular household. So level 1 charging, I repeat again, will be related to the household or residential kind of people for. So if I am having a car and I want to have my own charging station, so what I'll do is I'll have a single phase rectifier definitely. Why? Because my power is a single phase one. But for public use or mostly the companies who are establishing the charging stations, they will definitely go for 3-phase power, as 3-phase powers, 3-phase supplies, power handling capacity is more compared to single phase power handling capacity. Okay, then they can be controlled, uncontrolled. Basically, controlled rectifiers are used for charging station. If somewhere you want a DC power, then you can go for uncontrolled kind of rectifier. But I'll let me assure that most of the rectifiers are controlled ones. Then medium powered and high powered according to your application, or medium powered for level 1, high powered for level 2, I can say directly. Then bidirectional if required. Bidirectional means what? If you require to pump the power to grid again, that means from vehicle to grid. That is our second session objective. So if you want that kind of thing, then definitely your rectifier should be bidirectional one. If you don't want to pump your power to grid again, then they can be unidirectional. That is directly taking the power from grid and giving it to the vehicle. That is a unidirectional one. Fine. mostly uses control switches, MOSFET, IGBT. You know, most there are lot many control devices, but the popular ones are MOSFET and IGBT. And let me ensure you or know people here that IGCT is a kind of a new device that is coming in recently. I think IGCT is a new device that people are studying for or researching about. So if you want to search on that area, you can go for IGCT also. Fine. So gate driver, I think Mr. Kumar has told you, gate driver circuit is required to drive the switches, and that is a circuitry, special circuitry that we should have for any kind of type of converter. Fine. So the second one is inverters. So inverters, when the inverter is required again. So see here, if you are using level 1, level 2 charging or any kind of charging, and if you want again to feed the power to the grid, or in between, if you are using a DC bus, that means first of all, you're taking the power from the grid, that is AC, then you are converting it to DC with the help of what? Your rectifier. Then again, for some reasons, if you want to convert it into AC again, because your final aim is to give for level 1 and level 2, your final aim is to provide AC, then you have to convert it to AC again. So what you have to use? Inverters. So inverters are generally will convert a DC AC power from a DC power. That means DC to AC converters are called as inverters. Okay. So yes, inverters, yes, partial PFC. So PFC is power factor correction. So I don't know whether you are from which stream, but let me tell you that there is a thing in electrical people, electricity, that is called as power factor. So power factor is what is actually the quality of power that you are receiving at user end. Okay. So what do you mean by power factor actually? So power factor is nothing but the angle between voltage and current itself. That is alpha, phi, you will say. Okay. So 5, definitely power factor should be more. But what happens as inductive, as most the loads are inductive and resistive, so power factor decreases. So if the power factor decreases, as I told you, that power factor relates to the quality of power. As the power factor decreases, definitely the quality of power decreases. If the quality of power decreases, there can be fluctuations or undesirable things that will be happening in the power itself or the current itself. So what we need to do is we need to somehow correct that power factor. So the correction of power factor is done with the help of PFCs, that are power factor correction converters. Okay. So if and all you require a power factor correction for inverter, or you are going for a costly vehicles like Tesla and all, you will definitely require a good power or a very good quality of power. So for that purpose, PFCs are used. Fine. So inverters can be of VSI or CSI. So VSI is a voltage source inverter and CSI is a current source inverter. So basically voltage source inverter and current source inverter are nothing but the same. Just the difference is VSI and CSI. For CSI, that is current source. Let me tell you that there is no any specific current source right now available. So if you're going for current source, definitely there will be some type of arrangement is done for voltage source only. So VSI can be converted to CSI by just adding an high value of inverter to the input side of VSI. So if you add a high value of inductor to the input side of VSI, it will be called as a CSI. That is a current source inverter. Why? Because inductors are kind of components who saves power as a magnetic field, and they provide current or they absorb current when and where required. So this is called as an inductor. So if you use a huge amount of inductor after the supply of VSI, it will be becoming a CSI. Fine. So let me tell you again, most of the people or most of the industries are going for VSIs only. No one will be requiring CSI unless and until they'll be dealing with very much high fault conditions and high fluctuations in current. So most of people are dealing with only CSIs. Oh, sorry, VSI. Fine. And power factor correction is generally used to enhance the power. As I told you, the quality of power is increased with the help of PFCs. Now there are different PWM techniques that are used for control of any inverters. There is normal PWM, SPWM, single pulse width modulation, then MPWM, multiple pulse width modulation, and SPWM also, that is sinusoidal pulse width modulation. So according to your application, according to your output requirements, you can choose any of the PWM techniques that you want to have. ठीक. So now, yes, the control basically, I don't know whether you have studied. For electrical people, definitely I'll tell you that they have studied this 120-degree mode of operation and 180-degree mode of operation of our inverter. So inverters are controlled by these two methods. And for electrical people, let me assure you that this they have studied in detail the operation for 120 and 180-degree modes. So what is this? So 120 and 180-degree mode is the two configurations by which you can control a specific inverter with the help of the firing sequence. Fine. Those are the last 2 points are very much important, and so you pay a little concentration here that any type of if you want to use any type of inverter, people generally go for V by F method. So generally V by F method is what if you want to change the output voltage, then you should be able to change the output frequency along with it. So if you change the output voltage along with the output frequency, or vice versa, if you want to change the output frequency along with the output voltage, thereby keeping V by F ratio constant, then you can say that it is a V by F control type of a thing. Okay. So this is related to inverter. Fine. So the next one is choppers. Choppers are, I like choppers very much because choppers are, let me tell you, are very easy to control, and there are a lot of topologies for choppers. And if you go and search on IEEE library itself, you can find many choppers, because choppers are very easy to design also. And if you are knowing small signal modeling, or if you'll be studying that control system design, there also you have seen that you can find the proper transfer function of any kind of DC-DC converter is very easy to find a transfer function of DC-DC converter. So that is one very much important thing about chopper, as chopper control is easy, and it is very there are really many technologies or topologies available in this chopper. Okay. So chopper can be of 3 types, buck boost or buck boost. Buck is nothing but step down chopper. So chopper is nothing but, I don't know your stream, so I'll repeat. Choppers are a DC-DC converters. So input is DC and output is DC again. So what they do actually, they either reduce the power or increase the power. Okay, so these are the purpose of chopper. So buck chopper reduces the power, that is step down chopper. Boost chopper is step up chopper. Okay? And buck boost chopper is nothing but it can be having both the properties. It can reduce as well as increase the power that is given to it. Fine. Then isolated or non-isolated. So isolated is the one I think main word that will be noticing right now, isolation, because amid this COVID-19 situation, isolation is the main word coming to the picture. So what do you mean by isolation or isolated is separating from each other. That is isolated means. So isolated, if you want isolated, then in electrical engineering, isolation is provided with the help of transformer itself. So why transformer? Because transformer is a device which is not electrically connected to both the ends. It is magnetically coupled. So fault is not directly transferred from one to another. So this is the main thing about isolation. Then again, they can be open loop, closed loop. If you want to have a better control, or if you want good quality, then you can go for closed loop systems. The closed loop is done with the help of controllers. So PID controllers you can use, or any type of microcontroller based programming you can do. So this is very much important. Is many topologies are available for choppers, as you can see, or you can search anytime. So there are many topologies. Easy to control, and proper filters are required for choppers. Fine. So this is about choppers. So Mr. Mane, I think I'll take just 2 minutes gap, and I'll just.
Okay, no problem. So what I'll do is, nice that I've got some time. I'm going to raise a poll. So this is a new feature, and I just wanted to check it out. So till the time sir is taking a break, I guess because of this continuous delivery, he might be tired. So for all the participants, I'm launching a poll for this entire session. So I request all the participants to give in their feedback. So I've launched the poll. If you see the screen, or if you guess, see the question on your mobiles, I request all of you to rate. Yeah, so the ratings have started. Wow, it's quite good. High speed rating, and I see around 100 are already rated. Wow, that's great. So many of them are in the very good category. So for Kumbar sir and Kulkarni sir, we got more than 50% in the very good category, 11% in extraordinary category, and 33% in good, 3% in average. So I believe we are doing good. So this is a new feature which has been added, and I just wanted to check it out. Thank you all participants for polling in. I see only 289 have polled, so we still have, I guess, around a minute. I request all to poll in and give in their inputs. And obviously, like I've been telling you all, we are going to take Q&A. So at the end of our session, we will definitely take your questions, and both the experts are going to be here. So don't worry about the questions. They will be taken. Okay. So again, I want first the session to be over, and we will have a very long Q&A session. We've got plenty of time. So around 73% have voted. So participants, if you are seeing the question or the poll on your screen, please vote so that we can finish the polling and go ahead with the session that is remaining. So Kulkarni sir, whenever you are ready, please give me a heads up and I will stop the poll.
Yes, fine. This is enough for me. I can continue.
Okay, fine. So we are going to end the polling now. I see many are still polling, but thank you all. I'll finish the polling. Yeah. So these are the results. I hope you are able to view the poll attendees, and I will stop sharing the results now. And I request Professor Kulkarni to please continue.
Okay. Yes,
thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Manesh sir. And thank you to the people especially who have polled very good or extraordinary, and that means a lot to us, as we are here just to inform you or to share the information that we have. So it is a good platform to share information, I guess. Okay. So choppers, I guess we have known something about chopper, and yes, choppers also requiring gate driver circuit. So, okay. So this is about the first component of charging station, that is a converter. Then we'll move towards the second component, that is a controller. So controller, as you can see the image, this image, I guess if you are working in electrical domain, electronics domain, you must be knowing that this image is of Texas Instruments board, and that is to MSP Launchpad. It's a new and very much useful board, and let me assure you that most of the industries also are going for this board, that is a Texas Instruments MSP Launchpad. This is a controller, microcontroller. Okay, so if you want to use a controller, so what are the things that you should keep in mind? That so the first thing we'll see about the requirements from a specific controller. So first of all, should be USB compatible, as everyone is everyone is having USB port to their specific laptops, phones, and everywhere. So it should be a USB compatible. That is the first requirement. High frequency response. So high frequency response, this is, let me highlight this one. High frequency response means if you increase the frequency is equal to what? 1 upon time. So general frequency is equal to 1 upon time.
Some issue with your audio, sir.
If you increase
Professor Kulkarni, your audio is
wavering. Oh, am I audible?
Yeah, now you're audible. Sometimes it is wavering or disconnection is there.
Okay. Let me know, so I will check again.
Yes, sir.
So my connection is stable, I think. Okay, fine.
So please start again for this slide, I request.
Okay, I'll start it again. Fine. So yeah. So first thing that we have seen is again converters. Then secondly, we'll move towards the controllers. The controllers are a heart of any kind of system. Basically, for electrical system, controllers are very much playing an important role for controllers. So now controller, yes, controller is, this image is of Texas Instruments controller, and that too is MSP Launchpad. You can go and search that, and most of the industries also are using the same thing. So requirements of controllers as should be USB compatible. Manesh sir, am I audible? Professor Mane? Hello, sir.
I'm sorry. You're audible. You're audible. I had muted myself.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Fine. Okay. Fine. 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 So yes, the requirements of controller should be USB compatible. Definitely should be USB compatible because it will be very easy if your controller is specific USB compatible. So no other converters are required to connect your controller to a specific PC that you are using. Then I was telling about higher frequency response again. So higher frequency response means what actually? If a frequency is higher, as frequency is equal to 1 upon time. So if you are using it or you are doing your work at higher frequencies, then definitely the work amount of time required is less. That means it is very fast system. Okay, so your controller should be capable of working at higher frequencies. Fine. Then good RAM, inbuilt ADC. ADC is nothing but analog to digital converter. So right now, currently, you will be knowing that all the computations or all the calculations are actually done in the digital format in any microcontroller. So it should have inbuilt ADC. If it doesn't have inbuilt ADC, then you have to use again a different kind of ADC. Again, it will be getting a really difficult job. Fine. The reset switch is generally every controller has reset switch. Good IT management. So good IT management is a very much important thing. So let me focus here that Arduino controller, most of you are knowing Arduino controller. Arduino controller is also very much used controller throughout the world, and it is very simple to program it. But there is a problem of heating for Arduino, and that is why most of the industries are hesitant to use that Arduino controller. So your controller, any way, if you are using any type of controller, it should have a good heat management, at least for electrical vehicular convergence station also, at least. Fine. So support various programming languages. Definitely will support various programming languages. Then USB power 5 volt and 3.3 volt is the two power outputs that are coming out from your specific PC or any type of charger that you are using. 5 volt and 3.3 volt, or even power banks also. That is the working power or working voltage, that is 5 volt. So your proper controller or particular controller should be capable of working at that level, 5 volt or 3.3 level. Fine. And high flexibility and detachable connectors. Fine. This is with controllers. Now this is about the requirement of controller. Then we'll see about what are the functions of controller actually. 5 controllers required or controller performs which functions. So 8085 is the controller. I guess you have all studied in your curriculum. Or Arduino also you have studied, might be. So controller, these are the functions that controller should perform. That it should have a very good computing system. It has a computing system that is called a CPU, central processing unit. So let me tell you what is the difference between processor and controller again. A controller and a processor differentiates when a controller has its own storage capability or memory slot, or a ROM. That is a controller, and a processor doesn't have any kind of storage capability. So this is the main difference between controller and processor. Fine. So yes, so controller, you should have a good computing systems. Then most of the pins of the controller chip can be made programmable by user. This is the function that a controller should have. Then a controller has many bit handling instructions. Many bit handling instructions means if you program a specific, if you write a specific program and then there are a lot of bits, then your controller should be able to handle that all bits at a single time. So it will reduce the total time, or it will be a very efficient kind of controller. This is the main function of a controller. Then a controller should be definitely handling Boolean functions. This is a common thing that means most of the controllers are nowadays handling Boolean functions. Fine. So on chip ROM structure is also there for controller. Then easy to design, low cost, small size, heat management are also the functions related to a specific controller. Fine. So this is BMS. I guess BMS is totally covered by the first session. Then also for our point of view, as a point of view of charging station, if you see a BMS, then we'll be definitely covering that BMS also. So these are two BMSs that are shown in the figures. Fine. So basically what is BMS? So BMS is a battery management system. So BMS means, actually the first sentence if you read, it is very much funny and very easy to understand kind of sentence. BMS means different things to different people. So what happens is Professor Kumbar has shown you two different diagrams, that is charging and discharging. So what happens is, for if you are going for lithium-ion batteries, what happens is there are a lot of cells. Okay, so as there are a lot of cells, there are different charging and discharging levels are there. So you cannot charge already charged cell, so that will damage the battery. Similarly, you cannot use the cell that is already been discharged. So the cell that is having a power should be used for discharging, sorry, and the cell that is totally empty should be charged first. So this is the thing that is done by a BMS. So BMS means nothing but a different things to different people. To some, it is simply a battery monitoring. Okay. So BMS is nothing but an electronic system that manages a rechargeable battery. So rechargeable battery, that is nothing but a lithium-ion battery pack has several batteries. So BMS is a system that totally manages a rechargeable battery systems. Okay. So the protecting of battery in SOA. SOA is the abbreviation for safe operating area. So always remember that whatever system that you are using, either that is mechanical, electrical, electronic, optical system, you should always come in between. You should always work below your SOA, that is your safe operating area. So if you work under SOA, what happens is your system is very efficient kind of one. If you go or if you work about SOA, then it will be more losses or less efficiency will be there. So for battery to work properly, SOA, it should work also at below the SOA, and this will be managed by BMS by balancing the voltage and currents. Okay. So a battery pack generally doesn't come with a BMS right now, because in India at least we don't have, and I guess for a whole countries that we are seeing today, neither of us are having any kind of a norm wherein if you are going for batteries for electric vehicles, then you should have a smart battery pack. So generally, if you want a smart battery pack, then your battery should be coming with battery should be using a BMS itself. So battery plus BMS is a smart battery pack. Okay, fine. So there are many types of BMS ICs are available. Many controllers are there. BMS is nothing but a controller only. Okay, BMS is a general controller only that controls specific charging rates and discharging rates of a battery. So there are lots of BMS available currently. So if you want to use a simple BMS, so currently my students are also are actually doing on BMS as their project. But let me tell you that their BMS is very much simple kind of BMS, and what they are doing is they are just monitoring the voltage current rates, but they are not really controlling them. Okay. So BMS are lots of types again. So simple analog front-end BMS offers just the monitoring required. As you can see here, fourth point, simple analog front-end that just requires a monitoring. That means, what do you mean by monitoring? Just it sees about voltage and currents, and it will alarm you if the voltage is exceeding or if the current is exceeding. This is just the things that are done in the simple kind of BMS. And there are a lot of higher end BMS that are used by Tesla or higher end companies like Toyota and all. So they are autonomous BMS. This is the autonomous BMS means what? They are monitor as well. They will be controlling the battery packs. So what they'll do is they'll first check each and every battery, each and every specific cell used in lithium-ion battery pack, and they will check whether it is charged or discharged or partially charged, and according to that it will provide the charging or discharging. So again, BMS is nothing but the different things to different people. Okay. So BMS can be simple. So it will generate an alarm, or it will give you a warning if you want only a monitoring of your batteries, or even if you are using autonomous BMS, it will shut down the supply if required. Okay, so this is about BMS. Okay, so three types of BMS are there. So types of BMS in that: centralized BMS, distributed BMS, and modular BMS. So in electrical vehicle charging station, centralized BMS is used. So centralized BMS, what it does is, it is a central BMS which is monitoring all the batteries or all the various electrical vehicles that are coming to the charging station. Distributed BMS means a BMS for different lithium-ion batteries. That is a distributed BMS. Modular kind of BMS is generally used inside the vehicle. That is a modular kind of BMS. Okay. So this, I guess, is covered by Kumbar also, Mr. Kumbar also. So BMS is nothing but what the BMS is controlling: voltage, current, temperature, state of charge, state of health, state of power, state of safety, and coolant flow. So voltage and currents are first of all very much important type of configurations that one should control for a electrical point of view. So specific voltage, a specific cell should have specific voltage and current limits to act below a specific safe operating area or SOA. So that is ensured by a BMS. Okay. So again, temperature limits. I don't know whether you are paying attention or not. So when Professor Kumbar has shown the difference or comparison between batteries. So lithium-ion batteries are nowadays if Tesla motors are using lithium-ion batteries, that means definitely they are good batteries, you can say. But the main problem for lithium-ion batteries is they are heating way too much. So you have to provide some cooling arrangement to it. So cooling arrangement to which batteries should be provided, this everything is controlled by a BMS itself. Okay. This is the fourth kind of component in our charging station block diagram. So that is a protection circuit. So the definition is, if you want, a device used to protect equipment, machinery, components, and devices in electrical and electronic circuit against short circuit, overcurrent, and earth fault is called as protective devices. So generally, if you are constructing any kind of electronic circuitry on PCBs or copper flat boards, or if you are going for any electrical kind of circuitry wherein you are having a big charging stations or powerhouses, everything is required a protective circuits. Why? Because the controllers that we are using, because the semiconductor devices that we are using, or different electrical electronic components that may be costly. This is the first reason to use a protection system. Second reason, and the main reason that we should use a protection system, is one should avoid electrocution, because electrocution is not a very good thing and one should avoid it. Okay, so that is why most of everyone should use a protection circuit if you're going to design electronic or electrical circuits. Okay, fine. So what is the main role of protection devices? The main role of protection devices is provide a protection. So consistency means what? If any fault occurs, suddenly your protective system will sense that fault and will decouple itself. So what happens if a system is under fault and it is decoupled, the main system will remain intact. Okay, so this will ensure the consistency of the system, and protection also will be provided by the protection systems, protection circuits. Okay. So yes, if you see the fourth point, all charging stations are equipped with a ground fault detector to reduce the risk of electrocution. So this is very much important. Electrical people might be knowing that ground fault detector ground faults are very much higher in ampere ratings, or these are very dangerous kind of faults. So ground fault detector is a mandatory kind of thing for each charging station to reduce the risk of electrocution. Okay. So again, if you see the fifth sentence, it is very much important, and it is mostly as we have seen the block diagram also. First of all, when your electrical vehicle comes to a charging station, then it plugs into the socket. There is a communication between your electrical vehicle and a charging station. Unless and until the communication is there, your charging will not start. Okay. So if you see the fifth sentence, that users are never exposed to dangerous voltages or currents, since the connector pins are not energized until the connector is inserted properly in electric vehicle charging socket and the communication has been established. So unless and until you have connected your socket to your plug properly, first thing, and unless and until there is proper communication between your electric vehicle and your charging station, there will not be any kind of power transfer, or there will not be any type of connection between charging and vehicle. So what it does is it ensures that safety for a personnel and also safety for your electric vehicle. Okay, fine. So yes, the electrical people might be knowing that there are different kinds of protection circuits. That is, relays are used to sense the fault. Fuses, most of us, we have seen fuses in our home also. circuit breakers are there, MCB miniature circuit breakers are there, inrush current limiters, and lightning arresters. Lightning arresters are also very much important for a charging station, because in charging station everything is working, every component is working at different voltage and current ratings. So if and all there is any lightning over the charging station, each of the equipment is damaged. So there should be, or there must be, an lightning arrestor at the top of each charging station. Okay, fine. Yeah, this is the fifth point about metering and billing. So yes, metering and billing is done in different kinds of countries in different kinds of way. So the first point, if you see the total solution for EV charging service platform, that is EV AMI, based on the power line and internet communication, is trending now because of electrical vehicle technology, or because of the vehicles that are people are focusing more on electric vehicles nowadays. People and also industries also focusing on EV technologies. So this is very trending that metering and billing should also be done properly. So if you see, or if you look at the last sentence, this is very much important. Electricity use from the EV charger will be billed under the existing rate of common use area account, or this can be used with the help of residential or a proper public service. So if I am having my own charging station at my own place, and if I'm going to make that as a public one, so there are different kind of billing strategies that are available, standards that are available. Or if you want to go and use a charging station at a public sector, then there will be a different kind of billing available. So metering and billing is related to different countries and different states according to their voltage levels, current levels, or whatever the service they are providing. So according to that, the metering and billing process will be there. Okay, fine. Okay, so this is a very much important thing, and I guess most of you are knowing. I don't know whether you are knowing or not knowing this socket. So if and all you were at your college or institute or in your industries, you are going for electric vehicles, or somewhere you have seen electric vehicles, or somewhere where you have seen charging stations, there is a plug. There definitely is a plug. So if you are curious enough, and if you go and see that plug, there are arrangement is there. So what is it actually? So let me focus on the first sentence, and very important sentence here. So Europeans, as I told earlier, use 220 volt 50 hertz, that are we are using 220 or 230 volt and 50 hertz frequency. Asian people are using this. And if you are using, you're staying in Americans, or you are American, or you are in USA, you are be using 110 volt and 60 hertz supply. So it is become very difficult for electrical vehicle manufacturers to make the socket as a universal kind of thing. So as you can see that nowadays there is a universal type of headphones that are available, that we call it as a 3.5 mm jack. Okay, so this is every country, wherever you go, or in whichever country you are staying, there is same 3.5 mm hole is there, and same 3.5 mm jack is there. Okay, so this is a kind of universal thing. Also nowadays people are focusing to the C type of cables for your mobile phones. So this is also a universal kind of things. So this is very easy for phone manufacturers to go universal, because it is totally depend upon a phone, particular phone. Okay. But on the other hand, if you're focusing on electrical vehicle, it has become difficult, because there are 3 levels: level 1, level 2, level 3. Plus there are different charging requirements. Plus there are different levels of voltage and current, that is 220 volt, 110 volt, 50 or 60 hertz. So it has become very difficult for electrical manufacturer, EV manufacturers, to make it as a universal thing. But then also, if you see the figure below, there are AC and DC different sockets are mentioned for America, Japan, European countries, China. And yes, all markets is there, but no one is using that all markets, as it is only for Tesla. And you all are knowing that Tesla cars are way too much expensive. So not all can purchase those cars. So if you go and search on internet, or if you want to have a generous look on this one, so you can find that AC charger, if you are going for, then ACE 1772, or J1772 is the most used type of socket for AC systems, that is level 1 and level 2 systems. Okay. And if you want to go for DC systems, that is CHA demo is the mostly used type of charging socket for DC kind of system, that is level 3 system. Okay, fine. So again, there are a lot of chargers, a lot of different sockets available according to the country, according to the region. Then also, if you ask me, this is the very much important thing, that if you're going for AC, you can purchase SAE 1772, or if you are dealing with DC, you can go for CHA demo. Okay, so let me tell you that in our college also we have built one charging station, and that charging station we are having SAE 1772 as the charger. Okay, as a socket. Standards and statistics are there are, as you are knowing, you cannot just build up a charging station, or you cannot just go and have a petroleum pump or gas station can be built. There are different companies, different government standards, norms, advisories that you must follow before going for any kind of the charging station to establish. Okay, so this is like a basic kind of EV charging station advisory is available. So CSA is a charging station advisory, that is okay. So first of all, let me see EV cord set. So cord set or the cables that they are using have a different norms. EV cord sets and power supply cords. So cord sets are small type of wires. Power supply cables are a bigger type of wires. Okay, so these have different norms, which what the area cross-section area should be, what type of company you should prefer, what type of voltage current should it handle. So these type of things are come under the standards and statistics. Okay, fine. So EV connectors couplers we have seen just now, that whether you're on which region, which country, and you should prefer which kind of a socket. That is also having a different norms. Ground fault circuit is very much important. As I told you earlier, that ground fault is a very dangerous fault, and your charging station should be equipped with a ground fault detector itself. Then supply equipment certifications also there, that should ensure that your charging station is properly well equipped. Fine. So code compliant installation. This is very much lengthy kind of document. I have just added here for reference. So there are 86, 300, 302, 302, 304, 306, 102 norms. As you can see that these norms are, or these advisories are for people to follow if they want to use or they want to establish a charging station for EV. So for 300 norms, the branch circuits or connected load, disconnecting load, then protection devices, plug for AC level 1, level 2, like that. These are different norms. Fine. Then again, choosing a charging station. A charging station can be a private one or a public one. So I can also create my own charging station if I own a car, or if I want to build, if I have enough money, then I can also go for a public charging station, so that I can have some profit out of it. Okay, so there are two different private and public configurations, and there are different norms for private and public stations. Okay, so charging station selection criteria is power requirement, commercial equipment, number of cables and plugs. Okay, fine. Infrastructure is very much important. Configuration of station, location is important. Where is it located? Is it near the cities, near the tanks? Distance from the street, then required evacuation work. This is very much important. As a fourth point, you can see that this required evacuation work means if and all there is, even though we are installing protection devices, even though we are installing earth fault detectors, but also if and all there is a failure of the devices and there may be a faulty condition and there is any kind of fire is there, so there must be an evacuation plan. So people should go where, and cars should be parked where, and all this comes under disaster management and evacuation kind of planning. Okay, fine. So choosing the location for electric charging station, then again traffic related means you cannot have a charging station away from the city where there is no traffic or there is a very less kind of volume of cars that are coming in daily. So how much time we will spend surrounding the vehicle, then visibility and all this comes under the choosing the charging station location. Fine. The statistics, we'll see about statistics again. This is very much important that we know the recent trends. Okay, so this graph shows you the x-axis shows you the year and y-axis shows you the numbers. Okay, so this is actually number of electrical vehicles, fast charging stations worldwide. So by now we'll be knowing that fast charging stations means level 3 charging. Okay, so if you see from 2012 to 2020, that is currently, the fast charging stations are evolving. So in the first slide itself, I told you that later this year or later upcoming years, you can see that there are a lot too many DC type of charging stations are available, or type 3 or level 3 charging stations must be available. Okay, so this is again related to USA only, and this is data is only up to March 2019. The different company names they are mentioned here. So they have charging stations of total 100%. I think ChargePoint have 39.3% charging stations. Tesla is a leading company; it has 18.9% charging stations. Then there are Blink Network, Evego 4.2%, and likewise they are having charging stations of total 100% for USA to March 2019. Okay, fine. So this is about charging stations or electrical vehicle charging stations. We have seen introduction, we have seen, then we have seen components, block diagram, then standard statistics. We have seen different controller converters. We have seen. This is totally about the first session that today's we are covering. We have covered. Then we'll move towards V2G. That is the second session. V2G is introduction. In that we'll see V2G means what most of you are knowing, vehicle to grid. So first, when people found about this is, okay, fine. First of all, what people are doing that
So voice is breaking. Kulkarni sir. Professor Kulkarni, your voice is breaking.
They found, then they got to know that okay, we can use this electrical vehicle to reduce the emission of carbon. Then also we can use this. Mr. Mane sir, hello.
Yes.
Okay.
There is some problem in your voice.
Okay. So I'll repeat again from introduction. Okay. Fine. So yes. So yeah, introduction part, vehicle to grid. Again, when people got the idea about vehicle to grid, it's yes. First of all, they'll be focusing about they were focusing about electrical vehicles. So electrical vehicles will require charging. Then the battery technologies came. Then lithium-ion battery packs. Research is done in lithium-ion battery packs. Then a certain research showed people that most of the time electrical vehicles are at standalone type of thing, or they are parked. Means, see, if I'm working at specific office or specific school, or if I'm using a car for a commutation purpose, then I will say that if my office is from my home, my house, my office is from nearly half an hour from my home, then I can say that half an hour is only commutation time for morning and half an hour for evening. So take it like 1 or 2 hours only the vehicle is in actual use. So for the whole day, the vehicle is parked itself. Okay, so whatever power that is stored in the vehicle is there only standing on the road itself. So people found that grid balancing of grid is very much important. So what do you mean by balancing of grid is that there is a grid. Okay, so AC grid is there. Now grid, there are different generating stations are connected to grid, and also different loads are connected to the grid. So there should be balance between proper demand and whatever the generation and demand is balanced, then the grid is balanced. Okay, so what happens is there is always, for any country if you take, there is always an hour for peak demand and there is an hour for very less demand. Okay, so peak demand hours are normally to start a day with, or to 10 to 11, 9 to 11, 9 to 12, are the peak hours. Why? Because most of the industries are started, most of the companies will be starting, most of the people are using fans, lights in their home, and there are less amount of electricity use in after 12 p.m. Why? Because most of the people are sleeping in the home, or already the companies are started, or there will be a break, or there can be a shift change. So this everything, that a change in load, what it does is actually it unbalances the grid. Okay, so unbalancing the grid, this is this is very serious condition. If the grid is unbalanced, then there is a failure, or there can be a faults, or there can be a blackouts itself. Okay, so what happens is electrical vehicle plays important role. So what happens is, if an electrical vehicle is parked on the road, and if there is less amount of load is required, then what people can do is people can plug their electrical vehicles to the grid directly. So through the batteries, the energy stored in the battery can be given to the grid itself, so that there can be a proper balance of load or proper balance of grid. So this is the idea behind V2G. Okay, fine. So V2G, vehicle to grid, describes a system in which plug-in vehicles communicate with power grid to sell a demand or to sell a electricity as well. Okay. Yes, then this is very much important that batteries for V2G, what we need to do is you need to plug in your vehicle to a charger or to a station wherein V2G facility is available. So what it does is it extracts power from your battery, and it can be given to either your house, either your company or industry, or you can give either to the grid as well. So what happens here, if you see, batteries have a finite number of charging cycles. So whenever you are purchasing a mobile phone or a laptop or any kind of thing where a storage kind of thing is available, so you can see that there they have mentioned a cycles, maximum number of cycles. So they can be ranging from 20,000 to 50,000. Means that up to 20,000 the battery's health is very good, or it is effectively working, efficiently working. After that the health is reducing. Even you can see on the laptop also, as you click on your battery pop-up, you can see that the battery health, it is excellent, good, very good, good, average, and all. So this is totally depend upon the cycles you are charging and discharging. So V2G is a concept wherein you have to discharge your battery to give the load, to give the power to the grid. So by doing this, you can have always a fear to reduce your health of the battery. So that your batteries are proper, and even though you are going for V2G, your batteries will remain intact. Okay. And can help energy grid supply electricity during peak hours. This is what I told. So during peak hours, when the grid is in need, so in that peak hours, what happens is grid, everyone is using power. So what happens is grid power, there can be power failures, load shedding can be there. So at that peak hours, you can plug your vehicle and you can deposit your power to the grid, so that grid, there can be a grid balance. Okay, fine. So again, this is fourth sentence is very much important, that this is the throughout goal of the whole world, that this type of technology can help meet clean energy goals. So what is the clean energy goal? Again, I think most of the presidents and prime ministers have set a goal for like 2045, year 2045, there should be a zero carbon emission. If for year 2045 we need to have a zero carbon emission, then definitely we should reduce buying cars with petroleum or gas, and we should more focus on electrical vehicles. Fine. Now, what is the main advantage of using V2G again? So if I want to have a if you are, see, it is like very simple. If you have a normal vehicle that is on petrol or works on gas, so you are going on a road and you find someone whose petrol or gas is totally empty, and that man is waving at you, and if you go and park your vehicle over besides that man, and if he asks you about, can you sell me a liter of petrol or 2 liters of petrol, and your tank is full, so what you can do, you can have a profit out of it. Okay, so same like a petroleum vehicle, if you're using an electric vehicle, you can have a profit out of it. Means what? That you are charged full total, you are charged overnight for a work, and you went to the work. Okay, so if you want money, instant money, directly you can connect your vehicle and you can sell the power to the grid and you can earn the money. So by this you can lower the cost of electrical vehicle ownership. So this is very important sentence. It can also provide an added benefit to consumers by potentially lowering the cost of electrical vehicle ownership. That means if you're rupees, I'll tell you, if you bought a car for like 20 lakhs and you'll be doing this kind of things, then definitely there will be a profit, and you're reducing the cost of your ownership itself. Fine. So we need for V2G. One second, Mr. Mane, I think someone has
raised the hand.
Is there a disturbance from my end or from your end?
No, it's fine. You're audible. I just wanted to say or ask you, how much more time would you require?
Sir, 5 to 10 minutes, sir, only.
Because you also have to take a Q&A session, and it's almost like 2 hours now. So
okay, fine, sir. So it will end in 5 to 10 minutes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So need for V2G is yes, to balance the grid and definitely to reduce the emission. And if you want to earn money out of your vehicle, so this is a need for V2G. So as you can see, the fourth point, electrical vehicle batteries are by so far most cost effective. Why? Because it doesn't require any additional hardware to exchange the charge stored in it. So it is very effective that electrical batteries doesn't require any output or external hardware to exchange the charge stored in it. So this is very important, so that you can directly go and sell, or you can go and harness whatever the power that you have. Okay, fine. And types of V2G is unidirectional, bidirectional, and bidirectional V2G. First of all, unidirectional V2G is nothing but a V1G. So unidirectional V2G is V1G means what? They doesn't have any kind of bidirectional system, or it doesn't even give power back to the grid or back to the any of homes or any of the buildings itself. So this is about unidirectional V2G or V1G. So bidirectional V2G, in that the second one is related to V2H, V2B, and V2X. So what do you mean by V2H? Is V2 home, V2B is V2 building, V2X is V2 everything. V2 everything means whatever or whoever wants power, you can give that power. And the third point that we are looking for is a quite difficult and complex one, that is a bidirectional V2G, and it is directly given to the grid itself. Fine. So this is a block diagram of V2G, wherein your electric vehicle is connected, and either you can give V2H, you can give, or V2 home you can connect, or V2G directly. That means V2 grid you can go. Okay. So V2G unit is nothing but a AC/DC converter. Why? Because your grid is AC, your battery is DC. If you want to give a power to the grid, that means definitely there should be a HDC converter. So there should be a conversion from DC to AC. That means you require a inverter over here. So that we have already seen about inverters. Okay, fine. So control unit is there. Again, let me focus here. Control unit, what it ensures is your battery health. It ensures, because even though you are connected to grid, there cannot be the thing like if you went to office and you have 190% of battery SOC left, and you for any reasons you connect to V2G unit, and your power reduces to 5%. So you cannot even go to your home. So this cannot be done to any of the vehicles. So this is always this should be a limit. So how much power can be extracted? Okay. So fine. This is the last point for this session. It is balancing the grid. So balancing the grid, I told you in the first slide itself, it is a quite difficult task, and there are very different kinds of load requirements for each industrial application, residential application. So if you see the second one, balancing the grid is about making sure there is enough electricity on the network when we all need it. So if you all need that electricity, so there should be a proper electricity already available at the grid side. Okay, fine. Then why it is so important is, most of all what happens is electrical different electrical vehicles are charging at different times, or different residential or commercial loads are using different electrical levels. So this becomes quite difficult for a grid, for a personnel who are working in grid itself, to handle the stability. So this is very much important to stabilize the grid. And to balance the grid, electrical vehicle can play an important part. As of now, V2G concept is like a baby, you can call, because it is evolving day by day. They are finding more and more research, more and more battery technologies or converter technologies, so as to harness more and more power from the battery itself. So up till today, this is like ongoing research for V2G. But surely day passes or day comes when if I have an electrical vehicle, I can definitely contribute to the grid without worrying too much, and plus finding a profit in that system. Okay, fine. So yeah, this is about learning outcomes. So I guess you'll be knowing you can explain now the components of EV charging station, or compare levels of charging, level 1, level 2, level 3, discuss various standards for electrical stations that are standards required from location point of view or safety point of view, discuss the concept of V2G, what do you mean by V2G, V2H, V2X, and also you can explain the need of V2G. So these are my learning outcomes for today's session. These were my learning outcomes. So these are the references that I used. So let me tell you that Texas Instruments released one document related to this V2G also, that I have referred. It is very good. That is second reference. And the first one is electrical vehicle charging station guide. So this is for from Hydro-Quebec company, and they have given a detailed review for this one, electric vehicle charging station, as well as they have given different standards and statistics as well. Okay, fine. So yes, if you want to reach me at any time, you can call me at my cell phone number is there. You can take a screenshot also, or you can directly mail if you have any queries. Okay, fine. Thank you, sir. So let me thank these sponsors, IC India plus RIT also. And let me first thank Mr. Mane for doing such kind of, he is a very good coordinator, and very seriously and very sincerely he has been coordinating. So thank you, sir. Thank you so much.